Hi folks, my name's Thomas Powell and I have been in real estate for 20 years. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I've lived all over the country, but that's where I've been for the last 20 and a half years and like it. Well, exchanging is a more creative form. It's not as rigid. We don't consider price and comparables and things like that are the law in regular list and sell real estate. We're more concerned about motivations and happiness and what people want. We look for properties that satisfy someone's need and address someone's desire to not be in ownership anymore. So that's how we move. You have to actually come to an understanding. You have to counsel that person on the ins and outs of real estate and on the pluses and minuses of different properties so that they can understand why they might want to participate in a transaction that might not be the perfect solution at face value. We have to delve into the deeper motivations that are involved in the properties. Sometimes it can be a geographic consideration. We have had clients who owned property that was 3,000 miles away from where they lived. So anytime they had a difficulty or a problem, it was a 3,000-mile trip to address it. So we've had people who had actually traded property just to end up with property that was closer in a location consideration so that they don't have that separation distance. Well, sometimes the market doesn't support it. Sometimes there's nobody to buy it. Sometimes the price is not attractive. Sometimes the difficulty that's attached to the property can be unattractive. That might need renovation, and the current owner doesn't have the wherewithal to do that, but the new owner does and maybe likes that. A lot of people will exchange because they have property that has property management considerations that they don't like. Some people don't like to be property managers and have tenants and all the day-to-day things that come with that, while other people thrive at property management. So there are always considerations of a much more visceral level than just cash. We look for people. We are more concerned about the owners and what their needs actually are than we are about how much the property might be worth to the local market, local economy. I used to call us cowboys because generally what we end up seeing is that probably 60 to 75% of the brokers involved in exchanging are not even part of larger companies. So a lot of times they're independent brokers who've been doing it for 40, 50, and plus years. I've been in it 21 years. I only got involved in exchanging about 15 years ago, but it is almost exclusively my business now. That's not to say I never do a sale, but what that means is that even when I do a sale, a lot of times the network that is involved in this type of business is where I find opportunities and clients and buyers and properties. So most of my business, probably 75% of my business, is focused on the National Council of Exchangers and the people and properties that are in that network. We're competitors, but don't forget, we understand the nature of what we're doing and we share the love of it. So therefore, even your biggest competitor in the right situation is your best friend, because what you're trying to do is accomplish a single goal. You're trying to make a transaction that satisfies your clients. And we generally have a special form, permission slip, because in most real estate contracts, you're prohibited from discussing things like motivation, difficulties like divorce settlements or health issues or things like that, because it weakens the negotiating position of your client. However, in this environment, we get permission to talk about those things because those are actually the causes of the transactions taking place. We're more concerned about the things that cause them to want to participate than in general real estate. Well, some of the tools that we use, like violating that confidentiality, are frowned upon by established real estate companies. A lot of the bigger companies, and particularly on the commercial side, which is where most investors are found, a lot of the larger commercial companies, they don't like having anything like that that opens them up to any more liability. We thrive on that because we try to, dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that the client understands that part of the transaction and part of the process. So in most cases, people are so worried about litigation, lawsuits, claims, problems, that they don't want to even open the door, because then it relies on the individual broker to make sure that you don't commit any violations. And they don't like giving those brokers that leverage. Yep. I made a deal myself. My wife and I were principals. My in-laws, or my wife's parents, passed away. They owned 2 properties. One was a manufactured home on 10 acres, and the other was their personal residence. They were both leveraged they got into these just before the recession in 2008. And so what happened was, when they passed away, we had these 2 properties in their estate, which were actually devalued to the point that they were unsellable. Okay? But we were able to put together a transaction where we traded these 2 single-family situations for a 4-family, multifamily property that somebody was just tired of having and managing. So we took on the management of those 4 properties, gave them 2 single-family homes that they were able to sell. And, it worked out great because they got to cash out, because they were able to buy the properties as a short sale from the lenders because it was the recession. So all they had to do was pay off the lenders for their short sale, and then we took over their investment properties and they carried the mortgage.
Do you know the tuna can story?
Yes, I know the tuna story.
Could you give me your iteration of it? I haven't had anyone tell me it yet. I keep asking and they don't know.
Okay. There was a large surplus of canned tuna, that kept getting used as a down payment in transactions, even though it was personal property and not real estate. They would still use that as a large ticket item, because it was tens of thousands of dollars of canned tuna. And it got passed round and round and round and round throughout the network of exchangers. So it was owned by probably 6 or 8 different people, and it just got moved from warehouse to warehouse to warehouse. Nobody ever did anything with it except own it. And one day, the last guy who ended up owning the tuna got hungry. So he went in the kitchen in his office, and he took the can opener in, and he opened the can of tuna and went back to his desk to have lunch. And when he tasted it, it was spoiled. And so he called the person he got it from, and he said, "Hey, this tuna is no good. It's terrible. I tried to eat some of it, and I thought I was going to throw up." And the owner that he had gotten it from said, "You dummy, that's trading tuna. That is not eating tuna." And so there you go.
Okay.
There are properties that have been owned by dozens of people because the upside still has not come to fruition. And so we trade those properties, and we'll look at anything that's free and clear as a down payment for something that's not. And that's the essence of that story.
Great. And then one final question: do you like your job?
Oh yeah. If I had to do regular list and sell real estate for the last 21 years and hadn't had the distraction of being able to enjoy myself in exchanging, I probably would be doing something different. I probably wouldn't still be in real estate.